The legend of the Enfield Monster. It was a quiet evening in Enfield, Illinois, a small town nestled in the heart of the American Midwest. Life here moved at a slower pace and people were used to the tranquil rhythms of rural living. But that all changed one spring night in 1973 when something strange began to stir on the outskirts of town. The first person to encounter the creature was Terry, a local man who was driving home from a visit to a nearby town. As he turned a bend in the road near the edge of the forest, his headlights illuminated something moving in the shadows. At first, it seemed like a person, but the figure didn't move like any human he'd ever seen. Terry slammed on the brakes as the creature darted across the road in front of him. His heart raced as he tried to make sense of what he'd just witnessed. The figure was about 4 feet tall with grayish skin, and oddly enough, it had 3 legs. Its face was obscured, but the creature's large, glowing red eyes burned through the darkness, staring directly at him. The creature didn't walk, but rather seemed to leap with incredible agility, disappearing into the underbrush in a flash. Terry sat frozen in his car, unsure of what he had just seen. Was it a wild animal, or something far stranger? The next day, Mary, a local resident living on the outskirts of Enfield with her children, began noticing strange occurrences around her home. At first it was little things, scratching noises at night, strange shadows flitting across the yard, but soon it escalated. One evening as Mary was preparing dinner, her son Billy came running inside, his face pale with terror. "Mama, there's something outside, I saw it again," Billy gasped. Mary, trying to calm him, went to the window. The air outside was thick with the scent of earth and something strange, something unnatural. She looked toward the yard. For a moment she saw nothing but the swaying trees. But then, a movement caught her eye. There, crouching in the shadows, was the creature Billy had described. It was low to the ground, its large eyes shining like headlights, fixed on the family's house. The creature's legs were arranged oddly, almost as if it had 3, not 2. And it wasn't just standing still, it was moving, with quick, jerky, unnatural leaps bounding across the yard as if gravity didn't quite apply to it. Mary felt her heart race. She had no idea what she was seeing, but she knew it wasn't something normal. She rushed to the phone, her hands shaking, and called the police. The local sheriff, Deputy John, arrived a short time later, skeptical but determined to check it out. Mary and her children led him to the spot where the creature had been seen. They showed him strange tracks, 3-toed prints in the muddy ground, leading toward the woods. The deputy furrowed his brow. There was no sign of an animal, no footprints like he'd ever seen before. Just as they were about to give up and head back to the house, there was a rustle from the trees. The hairs on the back of John's neck stood up. Something was moving in the underbrush, and it was moving fast. The sheriff raised his flashlight, and just as the beam hit a patch of trees, the creature appeared. It was real. The creature was real. It stood there for a moment, facing them, its glowing eyes blinking in the light. And then, it did something that terrified everyone. It leaped, higher and faster than any creature should. In the blink of an eye, it was on the roof of the house, standing on all 3 legs, peering down at them. Deputy John pulled out his radio, but by the time he called for backup, the creature was gone. It had vanished as quickly as it had appeared. As the days went on, more people in Enfield began to see the creature. There were more sightings, and the news spread like wildfire. The local paper ran a story, and soon, paranormal investigators arrived to investigate. They interviewed the family and other witnesses, trying to piece together what was happening. People in town started calling the creature the Enfield Monster, a name that would echo through local folklore for years to come. But despite the mounting testimonies and sightings, no one could explain what the creature was. There were no photographs, no physical evidence, just the strange, terrifying accounts of those who had seen it. Some believed it was an unknown species, others thought it was a supernatural being, or maybe even an alien. As time passed, the strange events in Enfield began to fade from the public eye. The Enfield Monster became another one of those stories whispered about in small towns, a piece of local folklore passed down from one generation to the next. The house where the family had lived was eventually abandoned, and the creature's sightings became less frequent. But the legend never quite died. The people of Enfield, whether they believed in it or not, continued to tell the story of the creature with 3 legs and glowing eyes, a mystery that no one had ever solved. Some say it still roams the woods near Enfield, waiting for its next encounter. Others believe it was a figment of imagination, a collective nightmare created by fear and the unknown. But for those who were there in 1973, one thing is certain: something strange and unexplainable had once visited their quiet town, and its story would never be forgotten.